It was March 2nd, 1959, and Miles and the band filed into Columbia's 30th Street studio in New York City to throw down what many critics have declared as the greatest jazz record ever, Miles Davis's masterpiece, Kind of Blue. Let's visit the magic. That's the end. Beautiful, folks. Hey, welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 24, live-ish from SpragueLand, the music of Miles Davis' groundbreaking album, Kind of Blue. My name is Peter Sprague, super happy to be here with you. We just played our version of So What by Miles Davis. It's the opening track. And let me just tell you, why Kind of Blue? And the history of it for us, and when I say for us, I mean my brother Tripp and I, because we grew up. It was a record that our dad had, and I remember before that we were pretty much into rock and roll, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and our dad always was playing music on the turntable, and this was one of the records that he had, and we were tolerant of it for some reason because it was very hip and very different. And I think my dad had great taste in music and really selected one of the great albums of all time. What makes it so special? For me, what became before the style of what happened on Kind of Blue, it was like bebop mostly. And so kind of fast tempos, lots of notes, lots of chord changes. All of a sudden, Kind of Blue comes along, and very few chord changes. It's called modal playing, kind of like in one key. The tempos are down, it's more gentle, and there's something really inviting about it. We'll explore more about what it is that makes this record special. Plus, it's sold like crazy, which is unheard of for a jazz record. Anyway, we're really getting into the music, and let me tell you who's here with me. My brother Tripp, he's on saxophone and flute. Brother Tripp, how about a hand? Yeah, and Tripper, do you have a favorite track on that record, on Kind of Blue?
You know, no, but my favorite part,
or a favorite section.
My favorite part is probably Miles' solos on So What and Freddie Freeloader.
Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed as I learned more about music, I was kind of disappointed when I realized, he's playing over a chord progression. Because just the melodies were so classic.
Yeah.
And when I finally realized how he fit them over the pattern.
Because you thought he just was making those melodies up just on its own,
kind of like that. But they're just so classic, and you can sing along with them. And so I think that's my favorite part is some of the solos. Wynton Kelly's solo on Freddie Freeloader.
Yes, indeed.
As opposed to a favorite song.
Okay, that's great. And then we'll keep on. They're on drums, out in the drum shed out there is Duncan Moore on drums. Duncan Moore. Hey, Dunk, tell me, I just got there's a new book, ladies and gents, out about Michael Brecker, who was one of my favorites, and he has passed away, and I don't know much about his life, so I just got this book. I haven't delved into it, but I knew about this biography through Duncan, and Duncan, tell me about the book. What new stuff did you learn about Brecker that you didn't know before?
Well, pretty much everything, really. I mean, I had listened to his music, and of course, all the way back. I remember, I think maybe the first time I became aware of him was the Brecker Brothers.
Right.
Probably, and then I listened to him doing that, and also then I was kind of later checking out that first band he was in, Dreams. Which was Billy Cobham and
fusionish, yes.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a horn rock band, I think, more than anything.
Yeah. But
with a lot of improvised horn parts and stuff. But anyway, I didn't know anything about Michael Brecker, his personal life, or what all the different stages of his life, how he got to where he got, and I didn't know anything about it. So the book was fascinating, and some great stories, And there's, being on a Miles Davis theme, there's a great picture, I think, in the book, if I remember correctly, that because, the Brecker Brothers had that club, 7th Avenue South.
Right.
And there's a picture of those guys playing there, and Miles is just hanging out at the bar listening to him.
I love it. I love it.
So he used to hang out there, I guess.
Now, one of the listeners is asking what the name of the book is.
The book is something like
Ode to a Tenor Titan, I think.
Yeah, Ode to a Tenor Titan. And he played tenor sax, so of course that's the tie-in. Yeah, well, Dunk, thanks. I can't wait to delve into it. As soon as this live stream, in fact, the live stream's going to finish, and we're going to go into the house, eat a little food, watch the live stream at about 11, and then I think from about 11 to 3 in the morning, I'm going to read the book.
You'll never last that long.
Yeah, and you guys know me, man. I cannot stay up past 9 o'clock, so that's all not truth. Okay, so then on bass, flying in at the last moment and playing his tail off, this is Mac Layton, ladies and gents. Mac Layton.
Hey.
Mac just busted over here from teaching. Where were you teaching today, Mac?
I was up at Cal State San Marcos. I direct the jazz band there, so we were having a rehearsal coming down to the end of the semester. So trying to whip them into shape a little bit.
There you go. Mac teaches a lot. He has, in fact, there was a nice article by Robert Bush about Mac. And it's impressive how many different schools, how many different positions now.
It's so I teach at 7 schools right now. Now that sounds insane. Five of them are an hour a week each. So it's like I almost spend more time in the car than I do at the school.
Actually, yeah.
No, but it's great. It's really nice to have that much work.
Yeah, good man. Well, we'd love to have you here. And one last thing, Mac, did you know the Kind of Blue record? I mean, me and Duncan and Tripp are from a sort of a different generation.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about it. I borrowed it from a friend on a cassette. I'm just elder millennial enough that I caught a few things on cassette, and that's where I got into Kind of Blue, and it's just classic. And I'm really glad we played that intro to So What, because that's such a mysterious moment, it's so cool.
It is. And hey, and sorry, I rushed a phrase both times it came. I was a little ahead of you. I owe you a couple beats there. No, a fraction of the beats. So. Yeah, okay, well, that's Mac Layton. That's the band, you guys. And listen, we are broadcasting from my studio, and me and my wife's studio in Encinitas, California, SpragueLand. And we are all separated. Duncan Moore is in a drum room, actually outside, about 15 feet that way. Tripp is in the piano room, and then Mac is in the main room, and we are all separated. And that's why, to get into the first tune, I did a grunt to give the downbeat. I don't know if you caught that. Maybe you thought I was losing my mind. But well, tell us where you are from. We have a special app that picks up where you're from, and it's kind of neat to pull all that together. So let me check on with Steph on the sound. Steph, how are we doing on there?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in. It's a great show already and more to come. Hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. And so the sound, no one's really commented on the sound, so that means it should be good. Mm-hmm. A couple people had to reboot because they had a blurry video, and I think along with that, Gary Schaefer put on his bifocals, and that seemed to help.
Oh, clever. Yeah, our regular guy, Peter Rahill, who is a guy that we tune in for sound, he wrote me a note saying he's going to have to watch the show later. But if no one complained, and the blurriness I don't think was on our part, so great that you rebooted and you're off and running. Let's play some more music.
Hey, Peter, you want to mute the sax mic?
Yeah, thanks. And then remind me, Tripp, to get it back when it's time. Okay, so the next song, these are all the songs from the record Kind of Blue. It's a song called Blue and Green. It's an interesting thing. Miles is claimed to have written these songs, but I know that he got a lot, and I've also read and heard that he got a lot of help from Bill Evans, the pianist, in composing these pieces. There's a sort of French Ravel kind of feel to this one. It's a circular chord progression. It just keeps circling around in an odd number of bars, so it's hard to just say, there's the beginning of the form. The colors are gorgeous, blue and green. And we're doing it in a bossa nova style. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. That was called Blue and Green by Bill Evans, Miles Davis. Hey, and a special shout out for Tripp. I mean, that was a great piano solo, and that was amazing because he's at first a saxophone player, and he's lately been playing the piano, and that was really great. Tripp and I, after my guitar solo, we played John Coltrane's solo in unison, the solo that Coltrane played on that tune.
That's like one of the most lyrical things he's ever played.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think the same thing. It's just like a perfect Bach jazz mix or something. All right. Well, hey, you guys, you know that there was this map at the beginning of the show, and let me introduce you to Brian Baltazar. We call him Digital Brian. He hails from Palm Springs. I've known him for years. He's a full-on tech guy, always hacking. Brian, what's going on in the map?
Okay, first I want to say thanks to the musicians. The music is just fantastic. It's a great album, but they're doing it really justice. I can't say enough. We do have a good showing today. It's pretty much peppered all the way through the U.S. And we have a couple of people on the outside. Of course, we have Shar, which I'm going to zoom in in a second. But we have a Herman Hinojosa. Does somebody know him? You know him?
Yes.
Okay. And there's Jerry Conklin. We've got the usual cast of characters. Gary Schaefer, who I think he had a couple of too many martinis. He was having problems with visualizing his video, but he rebooted and he's good now. Yeah, so the Shar is she's
Hey, let's
down
talk
there.
about Shar for a second.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so check it out. Mac called me the other day, and he scored $200 round trip tickets from San Diego to La Hui, which is Kauai.
Whoa.
$200 round trip. I've never
Yeah.
seen it so cheap.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So then he said, who should I connect with? And I connected him with Shar, and Charlene is Kauai. It was a gal that we met in Kauai almost when we first went there. In fact, the first time we went there, I think we met her. Super cool woman, and is that still working out? Mac, that she's going to help out with you and your wife's trip?
Am I on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we might stay with her. She's been so nice offering her place. It's amazing.
Neat. So anyway, sorry to sidetrack that, but thank you, Shar, for being such a super cool host and jazz listener.
So I did a little zooming in. Remember, I always put a random address. So you kind of zoom in on Shar, and it looks like she's kind of hiking the Nepali coast this evening. Which is okay. Watch the slippery slopes there, Shar. So anyway, yes, a good representation again through the Midwest. Deirdre is always a solid listener. That she's up there. Robert Bush put in North Park, and interestingly enough, obviously there's a North Park in Chicago because that's where it placed him.
He's in San Diego, North Park of San Diego.
North Park of San Diego, yeah. So anyway, looking real good. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and dialing in your address.
Hey, one last question. Yeah. How about Gary Schaefer? He's a prankster. Where is he?
Okay.
Says that he's hailing from
He is,
today?
this evening, he is hailing from Bluesville, New York.
Okay. Good. Always color in that guy's placement.
And also, you mentioned Robert Bush. He said the sound is stellar.
Good. He knows that
yes,
guy.
he does.
That's so neat. All right, let's move on. Now, one of the blues that Miles wrote for the album was called Freddie Freeloader, and it apparently was written for a bartender in Philly. It's sort of a neat kind of blues. It sounds kind of regular blues, but it has a turnaround at the very end that's sort of unusual. And for this tune, we set it up. The one tune on the album that Wynton Kelly plays, Bill Evans plays on most of all the other songs of the album, but Wynton Kelly, you can't get a more swinging piano player than that, and he plays on this tune, and his solo is so killer. So me, Tripp, and Mac are going to split up his solo. Freddie Freeloader. Love that. Love that. That's Freddie Freeloader, blues. Thank you so much. Hey, let me tell you about how this all works over here. We rehearse and we gather all the music. Everyone woodsheds. We call it woodshedding. They woodshed at home. Because some of these arrangements, these aren't the most tricky of mine, but there's still some twists and turns. And then we come together on the tech day. That's about a couple days ago. Steve and I came and got the cameras all fired up and ready. And then Brian, of course, did his thing. Steph, that's my wife. She's the chat mistress. No, it's the chat meister. What am I saying? She's not a mistress. She's married to me. Wow. All right. Anyway, we got a whole crew going, and part of what makes this all work is we work for tips. We'll work for tips. And you guys have been so generous in the past, and thank you for that. And it just keeps this whole little creative sprint happening. There's a bunch of different ways to give tips. I think is it showing right now? Yes, and this will all show at the end as well. But PayPal works. And if you do PayPal, one trick is right near the end of the transaction, select family and friends, and they will not take their usual deduction out of it. And Zelle works. Zelle is with Chase Bank and a bunch of the different banks. And then Venmo is cool too. And then good old snail mail works. So don't feel obliged to, but it's just super nice that when you do it, and we split the money and make it all happen. So thanks so much. Let's tune in with my wife Stephanie now. She's running the chat. Any good news out there, Steph?
Well, I hope that the musicians read the chat later, because people are saying great things, loving the
Neat.
solos. Yes. And Tripp did get some nice comments about his piano playing also.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just am going to turn it back to you. It's all great, fun things to read. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Steph. You do good with that. Thanks for manning the chat. All right, so let's learn a little bit more about Miles Davis, our resident tech guy, but also R&D, research and development, and exploring the outer realms of the web. Digital Brian has a story for us.
And you forgot a resident musicologist for SpragueLand.
Is Brian?
Yes.
Yes, I forgot
Everyone
that.
should have one. It's
Yeah,
great.
you need one, because especially when you're doing these tribute concerts, you need the backstory. All right, Brian, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. This is the time that I always like to give a little bit of opportunity for the musicians to take a break, because they're working out pretty hard here. This gives them a little bit of time. So we're going to kind of dig in today about what this album is all about. Miles Davis, the album came out in 1959. And at that point in time, you can see the cast of characters there is Julian Cannonball Adderley. Now, he is called Cannonball because the nickname he really had was Cannibal, because he had a really voracious appetite. But they shortened it to Cannonball a little bit later.
No kidding.
Yeah. Then they had
factoid.
Paul Chambers, Jimmy Cobb, John Coltrane, Bill Evans, and Wynton Kelly. And we're going to kind of look at each of these people as we go along. So this album, again, was regarded by critics as the greatest jazz record, period, which is quite a statement. And also, secondarily, Davis's greatest work. And it was put in the National Registry. It's a defining moment, as they say, and the RIAA says it's already up to 5 million sales. And we'll talk about just who got those commissions a little bit later. But so if you take a look at the album, I just love this look at this album, right? Because, you know, I don't know if people are old enough to remember a 78 album, but they're like, you know, they're like almost like plaster with black acetate on them. They sounded like it too. But here they used high quality vinyl. You can see it. It's kind of glimmering there. We got to look at both sides of the album with the 3 tunes. Pretty minimalist, right? Because it just says Miles Davis. Nothing about, you know, side musicians, or nothing about the time or length of the tunes. Just like, here it is, you know.
Yeah.
So taking a look at the next, here's the actual group, and if you notice, there's 7 people, right? Well, normally Miles kind of worked as a sextet during this era, but he liked 2 pianists, and Wynton Kelly was one, and Bill Evans was the other. So we'll take a look at each of these. So here's Miles. He was from Alton, Illinois, which is actually a suburb of St. Louis. Now, his mother was a music teacher and a violinist, so one would suspect this is how he kind of got initially interested into it. He went to Juilliard, but I think he pitched that kind of early, and just started working out in the streets at the different clubs and picking up his skills there. Cannonball Adderley, on the other hand, he was from Tampa, Florida. Both his parents were professors at the Florida A&M there, and he moved on up, and later on passed away in Gary, Indiana. Paul Chambers, double bass, he had a fairly short life, unfortunately. He came from Pittsburgh. And pretty much he came from layman terms and worked hard, and didn't really, just kind of worked on the streets again in Detroit, where he picked up his skills. Jimmy Cobb, the drummer, his dad was a security guard and a taxi driver, and he was from Washington, D.C., and again, picked up his chops in New York. He lived actually till 91 and passed away last year, but not due to COVID. He just kind of passed away due to age. John Coltrane, everybody knows who he is, right? And actually, he picked up a lot of his skills. He was stationed military musician down in Hawaii, Shar. And so his dad played ukulele, and picked up some of his skills, and then made it over to New York. Again, Wynton Kelly, the second pianist, and I'll show you the first in a minute. He was pretty much parents of a Jamaican immigrant, and from Brooklyn. And Bill Evans, he's the original Jersey boy, right? And he just check him out. I mean, he captures that classic look of a 1950s IBM programmer. You know, he too was a military musician.
I like that his father was a golf course manager.
Yeah, isn't that
Sweet.
something? Yeah. So moving on, so that's the cast of characters, that's the actual players. Now we're going to look at where this album actually happened. So here's the Columbia's 30th Street studio as it stood back in 1959. And depending on which book and which source you look at, it was one of many things. It was a Memorial Presbyterian church, a German Lutheran church, an Armenian evangelical church. But the Kind of Blue book by Ashley Kahn states, this thing was an Greek Orthodox church. Now, if you look, it's a very tall building, right? And the picture on the right, upper right, what this is the balcony where normally you would have the piano and the choir at the back of the church, right? They enclosed the balcony, and that's where they actually put the studio. And you can see there's glass in the back, so you're up high looking down over the entire church area. And then in the bottom picture, that's the church area. You see the two pianos in the forefront, and all. Just look at all the
look at the ceiling space.
The ceiling is very high. And
that's how they got the killer reverb.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sure.
when you look actually where they played, it's a little cluster over here in the corner, right? And there's Miles and Evans sitting there talking, and you see all the harsh lighting up above. Nothing about setting the mood for your players here.
Well, they just played with their eyes closed anyway, like me. And notice too, Brian, the baffles that they have that help sort of tame the sound down a little bit, like fake walls.
Yes, and they're actually on rollers, so they can roll these things around. They got little window portals in them, so they can see through them if they have to. Here's a picture of Miles at the piano. Another one, Miles hanging with his horn. Here's four of them warming up here with Evans, Miles, and Cannonball and Coltrane. And then Miles again, and Miles and Evans again.
Working out chord voices.
Working out the gigs. So the way this happened is from Columbia Records. It was all albums are just a number in the beginning. So this was Project 43079, and and they did two sessions. You know, for one session for side A, another session for side B, and they were on 2 different days. First one was March 2nd. The other one was April 22nd, and for both of those dates. Then they had 2 different individual 3-hour sessions from 2:30 to 5:30 and 7 to 10. So there was actually, the reason why there was such spacing between the 2 sessions is one of the other musicians had to be out of town for some other gig that he was playing, so he wasn't available, so they wait around for the rest of the guys to get back. Now this is a mouthful here, but we're going to walk through this a little bit slowly, and I wanted the musicians here to know what the rightful rates were back in 1959 so that they can have some perspective.
Of how good we have it now.
Right. Okay, so back then the union scale was $48.50 for a 3-hour session. Remember I said each day there were 2 sessions and there were 2 separate days. So what happened here is if you can actually look at this is the actual receipt over on the side. There's $64.67 for this one 3-hour session. Well, if you look up a little bit higher, it actually was 3.5 hours. So they had to prorate that one and give it a couple bucks more. So, so now if you take a look, like I said, it's 2 sessions per day, 2 recording days. Now for the more mature players like Chambers, Coltrane, and Adderley, they got a $100 bonus out of this deal. Now Coltrane. We're not going to walk all the way through this, but suffice it to say, the 2 days, the 2 sessions per day, pop on $100. He walked away with $358.68. So you can kind of guess the other guy, you know, the other Evans and Winton came away with a little bit less because they didn't get the bonus on that. So now if you take that and you translate that to actual U.S. $2021 though, that ends up being $3,409.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And then if you take that and divide it down and say, okay, they worked 14 hours total, and out of that 14 hours total, it comes down to the grand total of $243 per hour is what they were making on this. This gig. Yeah. So that's kind of the feel. So that I just wanted to mention that, Peter, because you know all the listeners out there, you know the musicians here. This is the goal. You know we try to shoot for, and we see if we make it.
Well, we can make $48.50.
We can do the first part.
Yeah, for sure on that.
Now, afterwards, many years later, when this album was selling into the millions counts, all of a sudden Bill Evans went back to Miles Davis and said, hey, Miles,
I helped write
write a couple of these tunes. Yeah. Can you help me out here? And he says, you know what, I'm going to do that. So I cut him a check for $25.
All right.
So how did they get in the studio? It ended up, I don't know, again, this was a popular man. Actually, they claim in the 50s he was the man to go to for recording on all fronts. I mean, he pretty much did everything. He was
as a producer, AR guy?
He was an artist, a conductor, a record producer. He was a industry A&R man. He pretty much was a one-man band. And also, he had this whole big, long series of Sing Along with Mitch albums. And actually, he was on television, too, for quite a while with the Sing Along with Mitch on Sundays. But he was an A&R man that brought in all his talent. We're going to try and take a look at what his talent was. He initially played on the Charlie Parker with Strings album.
Played oboe.
Played oboe, yeah.
In
49. And then he became, later on, an exec over at Columbia Records. And at the time, to show you how jazz was, it was so popular, they didn't use the term jazz. They called it popular music back then. So he was the head of popular music.
Okay.
And at that time, he signed a lot of people. And so here's some of the artists that he signed up, at that time. And this is just a short list of the people that actually went through. But then this is the more interesting part because, so the old fish that got away story. So here's some of those that he walked on, So he lost out on Elvis Presley. He took a pass on Buddy Holly. He took a pass on the Beatles. And sure enough, he passed on Peter Sprague. I just couldn't believe it.
But his loss. We could have made him millions.
So moving on, we'll take a look at the many faces of Miles Davis, because this guy has a lot of different looks. We saw some of his earlier looks in '59 when he is like 32 or so years old. But later on, he has this really interesting look. I mean, his horn is like, it's plated.
Three-dimensional.
Yeah, just plated red, and it's got all this, engraving and scribing. But he just is one classic-looking guy. So here's another shot of him.
Yep.
And playing a gig, and he's got an actual mic for his horn. He really loved Prince. He loved all they did, but I kind of dug around. I couldn't find them ever playing any sort of gig together. Mm-hmm. But apparently they just really liked what each other did. And there's another kind of...
I've seen a video of Miles playing with Prince.
Did you really?
Yep, it's on YouTube.
I dug hard for that one. I couldn't come up with it. Okay, I stand corrected. All right. So now what we're going to do real quickly, so that not to bore everybody, but he again, it's almost like, when you're dealing with Pat Metheny or some of these major musicians, there are just hundreds of things that they've done. So I just boiled it down to the 10 greatest albums of all time, ranked by The Guardian, which most people know who The Guardian is. Pretty much there's articles on Apple News and so forth. So we're going to kind of rattle through those kind of quick. So the first album here is You're Under Arrest in '85. This is kind of, you got to think this is kind of circa Michael Jackson era. But interesting enough, there's Sting on this album. You got to love that.
Uh-huh.
And number 9, moving right along, we had Bitches Brew, which again is Joe Zawinul, later on.
Chick Corea.
Yes. And
super cool.
And number 8, okay, moving along, Milestones, classic shot.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, Sketches of Spain. This is a beautiful album.
Gil Evans.
Okay. Number 5.
The Plug Nickel.
Yeah.
Chicago Jazz Club, hardcore, I think, back in the day.
Okay. Number 4, moving along, Birth of Cool, or number 5. Number 4 is Porgy and Bess, which is very popular back in '59, and we're kind of digging down in here. Okay, Jack Johnson. Peter, who was Jack Johnson?
Jack Johnson was a boxer, and they did and I think that is the soundtrack, that Miles Davis recording is a soundtrack from a documentary about Jack Johnson. And
John McLaughlin, great player there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and down to number 2 here, we have In a Silent Way, again, John McLaughlin. So he was playing with him quite a bit back then. Joe Zawinul. And of course, the number 1, we can almost guess this, is Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's us.
And that's pretty much it. So we'll move on ahead here. So Miles Davis, I said he was muted. in September 28th, 1991. And there he is.
Miles Davis. All right. Is that it, Brian?
Oh, sorry, I didn't close it out. Yes, indeed.
Good.
That is it, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it wasn't a little bit too long.
No,
All right.
no. Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful.
Take
Brian,
care.
Digital Brian.
All right.
All right. So let me tell you what's up next. One of the things that Miles did and many jazz musicians did is they played pop songs of the day and they jazzed them up and did their own thing with them. So like in Miles's earlier records, he played Bye Bye Blackbird, Green Dolphin Street, Cellar by Starlight, these kind of tunes that were from plays and Broadway, and they were tunes that were popular in the day, and then he did his version of it. So what we'd like to do now, Miles did, in his later years, he played this song by Michael Jackson called Human Nature. And I've always loved the tune, and so we have a version of doing Human Nature now, and we have our guest Rebecca Jade singing on it. So dig this, Human Nature.
Hey, Peter, you want to mute the sax mic?
Yeah, thanks, Tripp.
Hopefully you unmuted it.
I did, but I was a little slow in unmuting it. Your first phrase on Freddie was kind of like distant, but I got it.
Peter, quickly also, a couple people have mentioned the echo on your mic. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, sorry folks about the echo on the mic. What it is it sounds super good to have the echo on the mic when I am playing the guitar, but when I'm talking, it would be like, this would be an example of what I'd have to do, which I already have a lot to do, but I'd have to go like this. Let's see. I'm facing the mix. I have to turn that off and that off. Still there a little bit. So that didn't quite kill it. Anyway, it's a sound that I'm aware of, and it just is sort of a lot to get it. So sorry about that. I kind of get used to it. So when I talk to Stephanie at home, I go, "Hey, Stephanie." It's just it's in there, but it really makes the guitar sound good. Having that, that's called delay. Okay, gang. So let me just check. Yeah, I'm hearing clicks, so that's good. So this is Human Nature by Michael Jackson, my arrangement featuring Rebecca Jade on vocals. All right, here we go.
Shake my window.
Yeah, folks. Thank you so much. That's Rebecca Jade on vocals. And yes, she's not here in person. She came over about a week ago before she went on this big tour, and we had an afternoon and recorded her vocals, and then we just played along with them, and it probably seemed like she was here. I shouldn't have given it away. But she's actually out on the road right now, and we're going to show now a video of Rebecca. Brian, you okay on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a video. She just is saying hi and sort of what she's up to. Rebecca Jade. Well, Rebecca, thanks so much for being with us. And even though it's not in person, I mean, we're in person.
Right.
And you sounded so great.
Thank
you. Why aren't you going to be with us?
I will actually be out somewhere across the nation. I'm doing the Dave Koz and Friends Christmas tour. So I'll be all over the place. And so I don't know where I'll be when this airs, but I'll be out and about.
Will that tour make it to San Diego?
It will. I'm so excited. We actually play here on Monday night, December 20th, and we play at the Balboa Theater. So I would love any of my San Diego folks, family, loved ones, music appreciators to come on out and support.
Oh, we're so proud of you, and
Thank
so
you.
happy that you're in the loop.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. Always a pleasure playing with you, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Okay. We are back live. I was tweaking things on the mixing board. All right, so that's Rebecca, one of my favorite singers, and just brings a fresh thing to jazz. Love it. We're going to continue on. We have a couple more songs to play. This next one is one from the album called All Blues, and it's sort of a blues is a 12-bar form, and the All Blues goes kind of in a regular way, but the bridge, the turnaround. It's in G, the turnaround, the Jimi Hendrix chord. How did Miles know the Jimi Hendrix chord? So I sort of bent it even further. Stephanie was saying to me, hey Peter, because you've heard me use this term jazz damage. Usually it's playing a sort of a pop folk tune and putting jazz chords to it with the possibility of ruining the song because you're putting too much knowledge and intellect into something that's cool and simple. So she said, don't jazz damage already a jazz tune. It would be sacrilegious. And I might have done it on this, so you be the judge. All right? So all blues, here it comes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Duncan Moore stirring it up there. Super cool. Duncan Moore. And then Mac, wow, he was on the bow on the bass, and that is crucial, like walking a tightrope, man. Great solo, Mac. Thank you. Beautiful. Hey, we're at the stage of our show where we're going to do one more song, but before we do it, we're going to do a CD giveaway, and we like to do this. The CD for this week, Rebecca and I just ordered 1,000 more of the Planet Cole Porter CDs.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's been a pretty good seller, and she's going out on the road and we were both running out of copies, so we ordered 1,000. So we're giving away that CD, and that is a killer CD. It features the music of Cole Porter, but warped and spun out like I like to do. So, and it's featuring the whole band here is on it. Gunnar Biggs played bass. Mac wasn't on that one, but it's a nice record. So you have to make the right guess. So I'm turning it over to Brian. How about that?
Okay, it's that time of the night again. It's quiz time. Ding, 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 ding. We don't have a little...
We'd probably get sued if we had...
if we had any sound other than our own. It's just trouble on... Yeah, anyway. Okay, so this, Peter, you know, the Miles did the Kind of Blue album cover. Do you have any idea where that photo was taken?
I don't know.
Well, okay, I'll tell you. That was taken actually at the Apollo Theater. And it was one of his earlier gigs, you know, a year or two before the actual Kind of Blue album came out. Now, the Apollo Theater is, for those who don't know that, is pretty well known. And here's a pretty cool drone shot of going over the actual venue. It's got about 1,600 seats, I think 1,500 or 1,600 seats, but it's got a lot of notable people that have played there. So these are some of the jazz greats that have been there, and I won't list them all, but yeah, Thelonious Monk, you know, the who's who pretty much over the last 100 years is there. So tonight's question is oriented towards the Apollo, and the question is, what year did the Apollo Theater open?
Okay, and where is the Apollo Theater?
Well, okay.
New York, right?
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, but be more specific.
Well, I don't know. You'll have to tell me. I could say...
It's in Harlem.
Okay.
It's actually in Harlem.
Harlem?
Yep. And actually, the Apollo Theater actually got its start as actually kind of a burlesque show place.
That goes good with jazz.
Yeah, it seems to. And later on, actually became the Apollo. So that's the question. When did the Apollo open?
Okay, so what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to play this last song, and then we will figure out who won. And that's and so type into chat, of course.
Are you looking for the day or the year or what?
The year.
The year.
Yeah, the year.
But Brian is pretty well, you can't. There's only one way to spell a year. It's got 4 digits, so we can't go. But in the past, Brian's
I won't ask him to put it in hexadecimal or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, I can do that.
You're checking in with me, right?
I am. Thank you.
I thought so.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So, as Brian has mentioned, all areas of the countries are represented with people watching. I think that's just fantastic, and someone from Brazil. So that's really cool. And
who's from Brazil, by the way?
That was forgetting his name, Brian. I think you mentioned him.
Lars?
No.
German? Is that his
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's up the top.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, that's so cool. And Rick Champagne had a nice comment. He called it jazz enhanced.
Oh, instead of damaged.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's okay. We're going to use that.
And lots of musicians tuning in. It's just really neat. Albert down the street.
Albert, all right.
Makiko, Charlene, James McLean, Johnny Minchin, Danny Green. Last minute was able to get in, so that's cool. And Peter Rahill.
Peter Rahill's online now?
He's online now, yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, Robert Bush is a musician at a deep level.
Well, he is. He took guitar lessons from me years ago, and now has become a really good jazz writer
Yes.
of jazz and sort of critic, and doing really well with that. So neat to have him on. Is that it, Steph?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good job. How about a hand for Stephanie? Oh, and Duncan, did you want to say something?
You saw me here with the mic. Is
I
that
did.
it? Yeah, it was actually just to remind you to turn up the
Okay.
snare drum.
The drums in general, right, Dunk? I lost you somehow. Are you still there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And my mic's unmuted.
Yes.
Unmuted. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What it is Duncan's going to play very quietly. This last tune is beautiful. It's one of my favorites. In fact, when we were talking about earlier, I'm just turning Duncan up a little bit. There it is. When we were talking about it earlier, sort of favorite songs and also favorite moments from the record, there's a Cannonball Adderley solo on this next one, last one we're going to play, that is just pure magic. And it's an interesting tune. It's called Flamenco Sketches. It's a piece probably Bill Evans and Miles wrote. Miles getting the credit, but Bill Evans probably coming up with those killer chords. And it's an interesting thing. It's 4 different modes, and modes are basically if you take a major scale and you call C the starting point, you get a certain sound. If you call D at the starting point, you get a different sound because the home base, the gravity is going towards a different place. Same with, and if the E is different. Starting from each of these places, it gives a different sound and a different vibe. So Miles' tune goes through 4 different colors, 5 different chords. 2 of the chords have the same mode, but the other ones are different. And he just kind of scoots through these tunes, and he hangs around that move, and that's the Phrygian scale, and also known in flamenco music. So he hangs around that one the most, and that one gets the title. Flamenco Sketches. Here it comes. 3, 4. Thank you. Great band. How about a hand for the gang out there? Beautiful. Nice hearing Tripp on the flute. Thank you. That was called Flamenco Sketches. And we're turning it over. Let's see who won the CD, Brian. What's the scoop?
Okay, Steve, dial me back over again. Okay, just to remind you again, what year did the Apollo Theater open? And I just want to let everybody know, I know it can be controversial because I think certain people think they won, but they didn't win. And, and so if you want to check the source, I'm just saying, go up to the Wikipedia entry for the Apollo Theater. That's where it comes from. It's in the second or third paragraph. Okay, the answer is 1934 is when it became the Apollo Theater.
Okay.
Okay.
Who won?
And the winner is Danny Green.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He may not even want the CD, but I'll ask him.
Okay, all right.
He probably already has the CD because he plays those songs with us. But brilliant.
Okay.
He's really good with details. That cat. So, nice.
Or Wikipedia.
Yeah. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie, anything with the chat? The last sign-offs?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay. Let me tell you again who's in the band. That's Duncan Moore playing the drums beautifully. Duncan, you'll notice, has long hair and no headphones. And I'm sort of following the suit because we have these, they're called in-ear monitors, and they're really great. I can hear really well, and I don't have this headphone thing pinching my ears. So I got that from Duncan. Duncan on the drums, Mac Layton playing the bass. Mac Layton. Playing great, playing with the bow. Tripp doing piano, flute, sax, tenor sax, soprano sax, incredible. Tripp Sprague, my brother, thank you so much. Hey, again, just to mention the tip jar, it will be up at the end, and if you feel inspired and feel rich and feel also want to get into this thing with these things other than checks are pretty hardcore reality-based, but if you do these other ones, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, it'll feel like you're not even losing the money to us. So it's like a game. They make it fun and social. You can dig it. So let me tell you what we're planning a live stream for around Christmas time. We have this Christmas concert that we do in Del Mar. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. It didn't happen last year, but for sure we're going to do a Christmas live stream, and we have all of our friends and family, a cast of thousands, they say. So one last thing, there is going to be a lunar eclipse tonight, and in San Diego at least, it's on the coast, it's kind of cloudy. So Brian, do you have a way for people to see the eclipse?
I have a little bit of something that I'm going to show, and I was trying to I do have a way of showing the eclipse, and actually you'll see in a minute that it kind of goes by pretty quick, so keep a quick eye on it.
Okay, let's see it.
As we fade out, we'll go ahead and go for it.
No, we're not going to fade out yet. We're going to just watch the lunar
there
eclipse.
It is. There's the actual eclipse right there, and it's already gone.
What?
Yeah, you missed it. You blinked.
Well, that was a good try. Okay, well, we'll work on that. We'll work on slowing it down in motion and making it more vivid. But anyway, that's the story. One last thing. I want to show a picture of what Brian looks like because we don't have a camera on him, but Steve, are you able to pull up Brian's image there? That's the man that's got the knowledge. All right, and then I wanted to show a picture of my wife, Stephanie. You can't see her either because she's without a camera, but that's Stephanie Chatmach. And then a big hand, all the technology of the switching, we call it video switching, and it's extensive. That's Steve Grant handling the switching. Yeah, we've got a great crew. We're loving this live streams. Even though it's sort of opening up for live gigs, we still are digging it, so keep tuned. See you the next time. Miles Davis, Kinda Blue, great music. Love being with you. Thanks so much.